Thank you for staying on with us. It's a pleasure to have everyone who's watching, whether you're a member of Beth Yeshurun, you live in Houston, or really from anywhere in the world that you may be watching us. Since this past August, once a month, we offer and provide an opportunity for me to spend time with an esteemed guest in our Houston Jewish community, our greater Houston community. This month, we're doing a little bit different. We're doing this from my office on Wednesday, just a few days before Shabbat. But this is the first time that this has become public. It's now Friday night, and what an honor it is for me to spend some time over Zoom with Council Member Abbie Kamin. Council Member Abbie Kamin serves over 230,000 people in her district, including neighborhoods like the Heights, Memorial Park, Rice Military, Montrose, Upper Kirby, University Place, Braeswood, and Meyerland, including, of course, our congregation, Beth Yeshurun. Abbie grew up here in Houston, and she was part of the first graduating class of the Emory Weiner School, where she now serves as a board member. She went on to Tulane University, where she focused on political affairs and environmental issues, and then American University's Washington College of Law in DC, where her focus was legislative and governmental affairs, as well as civil rights. Prior to being elected in 2019, as an attorney, her primary focus was on voting rights and election law, and then served as the Associate Regional Director of the Anti-Defamation League Southwest region, where she worked on civil rights programming and policy initiatives, as well as hate incidents in our region. Councilmember Kamin currently chairs the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee and is Vice Chair of the Quality of Life Committee for the Greater City of Houston. She and her husband, Matt Hansel, are expecting their first child this spring, making her the first council member in Houston to serve in office while being pregnant. Abbie, what an honor it is to have you with us. You are a very busy person, and you're about to become even busier. And we can't wait when you bless us all with another life, another Jewish life in our community. So Abbie, let's begin. I have to ask, you're a young person, you're dynamic, you're a lawyer. What led you to want to become a member of the Houston City Council?
Well, and Rabbi, before I answer, I just want to say thank you to you, an early Shabbat Shalom to the entire congregation. It's just a pleasure to be with y'all, and I appreciate you doing this creatively as we continue to deal with COVID from the safety of my home and your office. And I think the last time we were together virtually was actually when you were giving this beautiful invocation at City Council. So it's wonderful to be with you.
Thank you.
Growing up here in Houston, one of my fondest memories was my dad as a little girl taking me into the voting booth with him. Don't even remember what election it was, but I just fell in love with the process of elections and politics. And that was really my first memory of engaging. So I always encourage parents to take their kids into the voting booth with them. But as you mentioned, I was part of the first graduating class of Emory Weiner. And while I had growing up this passion and connection to politics and political affairs, at Emory, it really fostered my commitment through the lens of Judaism and Tikkun Olam, and allowed me to really explore what that looks like in action. So high school really helped with that. And my first day of college was actually at Tulane University. Move-in day into the dorms was evacuation day for the city during Hurricane Katrina. Yeah. And that, growing up, embracing and learning about the history of civil rights, the importance of equality, but really opened up my eyes to disparities on the ground in real time. To be honest, we witnessed people left to die because they were poor and Black. It impacted the entire city. Houston, including Emory, took in evacuees, but it really was a failure of government at every single level. And I got what it looks like if you don't have good leadership standing for and protecting the people that they're supposed to represent. And at the same time, it was the first time on US soil we could really point and say, because of climate change, this was made worse. So it was this kind of double-edged sword of understanding the importance of good government and the issues that we have to start taking on to really ensure a safe future for all of us.
Wow, well said. And you hit so many important themes there, Abbie. You know, we as Jews, it's ingrained in our souls, right? Over the centuries, we've always been a people that aren't okay standing pat, but know we have to get involved to improve things in any way we can. And how lucky we are in Houston that you, at a young age, have decided to get so involved and already a member of the Houston City Council. Tell us a little bit more about the Houston City Council. How does it work? How long is your term? What's involved in being a member of the Houston City Council?
So I'm one of 16 city council members. 11 of us represent specific areas. So I represent District C. My predecessor, I'm so proud of the work she did, Ellen Cohen, who is also our mayor pro tem. And we also operate under the strongest form of mayoral government pretty much in the entire country. So we have a legislative function, but it really falls to the executive, and you have to have a very good and strong working relationship with your colleagues to accomplish a lot, but also with the mayor. And, you know, I think we're very lucky to have who we have during this time, the leadership that we have in Mayor Turner. First and foremost, my responsibility is to my constituents. So as you mentioned, over 230,000 people. That's bigger than some cities and towns. And I think I have the best district. I know I'm biased, but we really do. And it's the most active district in the city. We have over 100 civic groups that are active. All of our super neighborhoods are engaged. And then we have incredible institutions like Congregation Beth Yeshurun, others, and it's just a privilege to serve and provide access to government for the people that we represent. We pass the city's budget and focus on city contracts and procurement, but within that, there's a lot of opportunities for good. I just was looking at a contract a few months ago. It was a tire retreading contract for fleet tires. And we noticed that the contractor with the lowest bid was the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And I flagged, well, why is TDCJ the lowest bidder? Well, it turns out that TDCJ, the state of Texas, is one of only a few states left in the country that allows unpaid labor for prison labor. So the reason it was so inexpensive is we weren't paying for the work that people were doing, and that's just morally wrong. So we worked with the mayor, and we were able to change the form of that contract to ensure that there's fair pay in the contracting that the city does. So something as small as a tire retreading contract became a really profound and groundbreaking policy initiative that now is going to be taken up at the current state legislative session, we hope.
Fascinating. It's amazing in this day and age that was still allowed, and it's still allowed in this state. Well, Hanukkah, of course, is on our minds. We just started. When people see this, we'll have started already. And you're the only Jewish member on the Houston City Council out of 16. So being the rabbi, how does Judaism affect your role as a member of the Houston City Council? And has anything happened that surprised you and how other people have treated you as a Jew on the Houston City Council?
Yeah, well, and I should say I'm one of two council members. Oh. Councilmember Amy Peck is Jewish as well.
Okay.
And we're lucky to have her. Yeah. She represents District A. But I think, I mean, there's no way that my faith has not had a profound impact on who I am or how I serve. Whether it's principles of Tikkun Olam and preparing, repairing the world, but also I think my faith has shaped my views on immigration and welcoming the stranger from our own historical experiences, but also the teachings that we have. I also think that my faith has really shaped my views on a woman's right over autonomy and to choose, and all of these different questions that somehow you normally don't think come to the city, but end up in different ways. Usually we're dealing with trash pickups, ensuring water is delivered safely to homes, public safety, but all of these issues start to become interconnected, and that really has shaped not just my role on council, but also really propelled me into the career choices that I've made.
No doubt about it, and it's genuine. I mean, you could tell from what I've heard you speak before, and read a lot of what you've written or spoken about, and you could tell it's genuine, Abbie. Whether it was the love your parents, or love of Judaism you got as a child from your family, or an Emory Weiner, and your continued Jewish education, and your affiliation with the Jewish community, you could tell it's really genuine, and it's nice to see as a rabbi and as a member of the Jewish community that we have someone on there like you that's representing our Jewish faith and our beliefs and values.
I appreciate it. And, for me, I think inclusion is so important. I think it is important to bring the Jewish community to the table, and all other communities as well. But I take such pride in who we are as a people, who we are as a community, and being able to, I certainly don't relate to it as being, the Jewish voice on council. I think it's important, though, to open up give the microphones, so to speak, to the Jewish community, to allow all of those perspectives to come forward and be represented.
So I've had the pleasure of living in Houston for almost 20 years now. I grew up in Dallas, but I don't often share that here in Houston. But I really come to love this city. I think I've been very blessed to be able to raise my children here. I think we have so many strengths, and I'm interested to hear from you. You grew up here, right, Abbie? And
born and raised. I know you got here as soon as you could, and we won't hold
exactly. What do you think are the great strengths of our city, and what are the great challenges we face as Houstonians?
I love Houston. I think it is the best kept secret in the country. I think that our spirit of giving and kindness, we saw that during Harvey, is just cherished. And we even see that today with COVID. People are continuing to ask, what can we do to help others? And that spirit of giving, but also that spirit of innovation. We're the energy capital of the world, and we're leading the way in the energy transition, while also making sure that we're bringing and creating those jobs here. So I think we continue to face challenges, certainly, but Houstonians seem to always rise to the occasion. And I think our innovation and our spirit is what will continue to lead Houston forward and make sure that we are the ones leading the rest of the country in arenas where we should be.
And what are some of the great challenges you think are unique to our city?
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is flooding. And, that every city has its challenges. So when you look at the West Coast, it's wildfires. Unfortunately, Texas is also going to see drought and wildfires very soon. But right now at the forefront for Houston, it's flooding. There's a lot that we're working on to that, but I certainly think that remains on everybody's minds in terms of how proactive we must be. And I think with COVID, the city has had a much more difficult time, and will have a more challenging time coming back after this economically, because it's not just sales tax, it's oil and gas revenues as well. It's hitting our market very differently and harder than it will in other parts of the country. So we're going to have to be very, very intentional with our recovery after COVID.
So let me press two of those issues that I think are in the forefront of our minds. Living in Southwest Houston, many of us live in the Meyerland. As we know, Congregation Beth Yeshurun flooded. Many of our homes flooded. Over 25% of Beth Yeshurun members' homes flooded. What is the city doing? What is the city doing to help?
We're doing a lot. I know it doesn't feel like it's coming fast enough. We all were holding our breath this hurricane season, and thank God it's past us. But the next hurricane season is only a few months away.
No,
We are
don't remind
seeing
us.
we are seeing increased storms, increased rainfall patterns. Luckily, Project Blaze is nearly complete. Right now, we're in the final finishes of the raising of those bridges that will also help with water flow. But we're doing other things. I know Project Blaze has been kind of the big focus and gotten a lot of the attention, rightfully so. But we also the city partnered and actually gave the land for the flood control district to do South Braeswood, parallel to Project Blaze, additional detention basins that will hold and are already holding 12 million gallons of water. Meyer Grove detention, which is closer to the congregation, that project, which will be right, for those that don't know, inside 610, between Bayou and North Braeswood, that's moving forward as quickly as possible. The contracting process is going to start early next year for that. The design has been completed.
Right.
That will hold an additional 21 million gallons of stormwater. That's just for one part of the district. And the northern part of the district, we're also coordinating and working on projects with the flood control district in the county. And because of budgetary constraints, I'm trying to get really, really creative with funding, getting federal grants, looking every possible way to get more dollars into Houston. We just heard today on council an amendment I passed through our city's budget this year. It's a green stormwater infrastructure amendment, where you don't really think of stormwater infrastructure and greening a lot of the time together, but this is a tax incentive for development and developers to incorporate green stormwater infrastructure into development. So green roofs that will help detain water and clean water and slow the dissemination of flood water, rain barrel harvesting, all of these unique things that we can incorporate into our neighborhoods. We're trying to incentivize now in building. We have to though, keep the pressure on the state and federal government not to forget about us. We have to have a coastal barrier. We're on borrowed time. That is going to be critical for Houston, and we're continuing to advocate for that. And we can always use everyone's help advocating for that and for additional dollars. And Rabbi, I think it's also important. I mean, you mentioned how many within your own congregation have flooded. And while we're looking ahead to prevent future disasters, it's so important that we make sure that families are not left behind from Harvey recovery or other flooding, Memorial Day, Tax Day. Many in our area and in the district, I know we're still waiting on reimbursement assistance from Harvey. It has taken way too long, and I've been pushing very hard on that. And we just this week had a big victory at the city. The general land office for the state is taking over some of the recovery process from the city. And when I learned, many of our residents basically got caught in the middle of a political fight. And it ended up turning out that they weren't necessarily going to get reimbursement assistance. As of this week, I worked with the mayor, and Congresswoman Fletcher deserves a lot of credit on this too. We all worked together, and now the GLO has authorized the city to move forward with those reimbursement applications. So it's a big deal. It's a big win. And if I can just say, if you were invited by the city to apply for reimbursement only, please get your application in before December 31st. That's the deadline that HUD at the federal level has imposed, but we'll keep advocating for our residents to get the help that they need and that everyone's been waiting on.
Good. And I'm glad you said that. And I'll say, every time I see more work being done on the bayou, or I see new construction starting, I say Shechianu. I just figure any project that's being done, whether it's in this area or any area of the city, just lessens the chance that a home will flood anywhere. So please, thank you for that work you're doing.
I have to thank the residents too. I mean, all through hurricane season, folks got out and cleared out drains. They were keeping an eye on things. People would text me or email the office saying, hey, there looks like there's buildup at this, intersection or these ditches, and we were able to coordinate with the public works department to get crews out, but it really was everyone in the community doing their part as well, because we can't do it alone.
Now, I remember you and I messaged each other on Facebook before one of the tropical storms this summer, like, what can we do? And it was a scary time. We had some close calls, and we know it's going to continue in the future. So, all right, speaking of challenging times, let's end with this. Of course, COVID is on our minds. We're so close to those vaccines, but we got some time. What are the most important things that we as Beth Yeshurun members can do to get through these last remaining months of this pandemic?
Continue to do what you're doing. Just to share some of the most recent numbers with you, we are seeing a spike again, not just nationally, but the state of Texas is getting really bad. Here in Houston, we've had over 101,000 individuals test positive for COVID. That's just the city. It doubles if you look at Harris County. And we're about 40, unfortunately, 40 away from reaching 1,500 deaths in the city. It is not a marker that I'm looking forward to. And unfortunately, we know it's going to happen. I think we're up to 9% positivity rate again, and it's still going up, and the hospitals are raising the warning flags. The vaccine is on its way. I chair the Public Safety Committee. We just had a committee hearing last week talking about the state's implementation plan, but I think it's important for all of us to remember, as ready as we are for the vaccine, as excited as we are, it's still months away from being available to the general public. It'll go to healthcare workers first, and then there's a tiered system that the state has designed, but the vaccine won't be here soon enough for us to be letting up on what we are already doing. So again, Rabbi, y'all have done an amazing job with your COVID protocols. And it's important to remember that at least 40% of people with COVID don't show symptoms, but continue to spread the virus. So this means even if you don't feel sick, keep masking up, socially distance. If you're around anyone that's not in your immediate household, please get tested at any of the city's free testing locations. The nearest one to the congregation is the Aramco Services Company, right at 610 between North Braeswood and Jason. And, you know, I know with Hanukkah here, Hanukkah is upon us. It is better to celebrate safely virtually with family than to miss years ahead with those family members. So to please just continue to do what you're doing. I know it's been a long year, but we see the light at the end of the tunnel. We just have to hang in there a little bit longer. And we are doing everything we can at the city to get resources and support into the community.
Amen. Well said. And thank you, Abbie, for leading us. And know that you always have a home at Beth Yeshurun. And anything I can do, my colleagues can do, our members can do to help and to better the lives of Houstonians. So keep up the good work. Only blessings. And happy Hanukkah, Abbie, to you and your husband. And good Shabbos. Thank you for joining us.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Thank you, Rabbi.